Ear. E-A-R.
How are you doing? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Joeal Baraka. On the channel we inspire, we motivate and we encourage. And when you're not doing that, we do some lifestyle. Now I've not done the inspiration and motivation in a very long time, but here I am. I'm here today. So on today's episode, I'm going to be we're going to be having a conversation with another amazing person who's going to inspire you. They're going to change your mindset about particular things, and I am sure you're going to be amazed. Now do not forget to like the video, do not forget to subscribe, and do not forget to leave a comment in the comment section. Also, you might want to share, because this is information that needs to be out in the world.
No kibita olina okuzaana endala
So yeah, it's nice having you on the channel. Thank you for allowing to do this.
I'm so happy to be here.
Alright, so tell us about yourself.
Yeah, it's Joeal Baraka. I'm a student at the University. Besides being a student, I as well work with my hostels, which is a non-profit organization looking at providing quality education to students in marginalized communities such as refugee camps, rural areas and outskirt areas outside Kampala, areas in the ghettos, areas in the slums. So basically, we reach out to these kids for providing them with education material that can help them learn.
So are you guys like a team? Do you do this alone?
No, we are actually a team of people. Because you cannot do this alone.
Sure.
To do something of a sort, you must be a team.
Yeah.
So we have a team of around 10 people that work with us.
Yeah.
Each member of our team has different roles they play as any other non-profit to help us extend our service to these learners.
Yeah.
So we are made up of a team. We have founders and CEOs. We have the operating managers. We have the facilitators on the ground. We have the teachers that work with the kids. Then even the children, because these are our
Biggest
kids.
stakeholders.
Biggest stakeholders. So we are a team of people that see this coming.
When did this dream go? When did you guys realize we need to do something? When did you realize there is a problem that needs to be solved?
Thank you so much, Joe. So we are motivated by one of our team members who grew up in a refugee camp and went to school in a refugee camp, went to school and lived entirely his life in a refugee camp. Yeah, so his story in regards to attaining education is not a good one. Living in a camp whereby you find one class is occupied by something like 300 children, find a class has just one teacher to look at almost all these learners. You find that a school is being taught in shifts. You find that there's a shift that comes in the morning, then lives in the afternoon, then another shift comes in for the evening class. So it was hard for him to attain this education, which like any other kid desire to have, because without education you're not sure how your future will be. So the hardships and challenges he faced up to our inspiration. So we discovered that there was a problem, especially in rural areas and these marginalized communities. I will typically give my reference with refugee camps. We find that there are limited resources in form of teachers, textbooks, like schools are few and the kids are many. In Uganda, we have a population of around 15 million primary learners. 13.7 of those learners come from these areas, in rural areas and the refugee camps. Then the 0.9 of the 15 million are from specifically refugee camps. So you can imagine the number of these kids. So there is a big problem in these camps. So we find that teachers cannot be able to sustain these huge numbers. Even when they try to sustain them, how sure are we that these learners they're working with will be able to attain quality education? Because one teacher looking at a class of over 300, that kid at the back of the class how will you be able to understand the different concepts of math, science? So you find that you receive compromised education. Yeah, so this is the challenge that we looked at and decided to solve. And specifically after the outbreak of COVID-19, we were again motivated by how will these kids be able to be in this condition when they contract the disease, when they fall sick. So we were in a position of finding a way, how can we make their learning proceed without them being contracted with the disease. So we are trying to devise means to extend learning in the easiest way possible for these learners. Another thing was that before even again post-COVID-19 effects, you find that now kids have been spent the whole of around 2 years at home, playing, not receiving any kind of education or any kind of being in class. So they're now back in class. So how mentally prepared are they to be in class? So you find that it's as well a challenge to these learners. So we as an organization, we are looking at finding the best possible means to extend quality education in different forms of learning. So basically that's what we deal in, and those are the challenges and problems we're trying to tackle.
Okay, so what do you do? What did you exactly? How are you able to extend this particular skills or this different learning structure that you intend to bring in place? Not you intend, that you put in place. How are you doing this?
Yeah, thank you so much, Rachel. So I'll begin with the traditional. We understand that the traditional way is that the teacher comes in front of the class, gets the reading book, maybe his notebook, dictates notes to the students note down, the students go back home, they cram these things. So you cram this information and you come back and write it in an examination. So basically that's the traditional way. And we are looking at the traditional way working right now. Can it be able to work for these kids? Why are we saying that it may not be so efficient for these learners? The traditional way is being used uptown here, whereby a student comes from home, he has eaten maybe breakfast, he has managed to leave home when the dad is okay, the mom is okay, the family is okay, reasonably stable. So he comes to class, he school, they make a development, attends the education. At lunchtime he gets out, receives a meal, then goes back to education, uses water, drinking water. So like the environment, it's friendly to these kids to receive this traditional education. So vis-a-vis a student in a refugee camp who left home, left his indigenous country because of war, his father or auntie or some of the relatives were killed by war. He has left, he depends on World Food Program food portions. If they don't receive 5 kilograms of portion a week, he cannot survive. So he has 1 meal a day. He takes 3 to 4 days without showering just because of the limited water. He doesn't have the mental capacity to be in class. He's in class, but he's thinking about home. He doesn't have friends at school. Why doesn't have friends at school? Maybe he has just joined and most of the friends cannot, the languages are different. Congo is from Rwanda, is from Burundi. Exactly. So the trauma in their head. So this is the same kind of education, the same kind of traditional mode of education that we are trying to use to extend education to these same learners. So we are saying it's very hard for this kid to be on the same footing with the other kid. Yes, so how can we be able to find a way to extend quality education to these learners in a way that they can understand this, in a way that they, and be able to compete with these learners uptown. So our idea is just simple. We believe that every kid loves to play. When kids play, they enjoy play. I used to enjoy play. When Joeal's story, we have it that he used to live his home in refugee camps, living in a tent, because they're given tents in refugee camps, so they stay in tents. Wakes up in the morning, goes to class, then after class, or during the break time, he cannot eat, but he loves playing. He go play volleyball, run around with balls with his fellow learners. So he enjoyed playing despite living in a hard condition.
That is the time when he would like take off the stress.
Exactly. So it's one of the things that he used to take off the stress. He even forgets that he has issues at home. Maybe some of their relatives are still in Congo and are still there. So we find that playing helps them forget a lot. So we believe that kids love to play and enjoy play. So we have innovation product that helps these learners learn as they are playing. What is our product? Our product is the 5 Stars Education game. Onto it, we were able to get the curriculum of Uganda for primary level. That's maths, science, English, and SST. We incorporated it on the game, so these learners can actually play the game as they are studying. So basically, it's an educational game. So these kids can play math, these kids can play science, these kids can play SST. So it's competitive in nature that all these kids will want to play and maybe win, because most of them don't have hope, but whenever they keep winning, they believe they can even win in life.
That's true. Yeah, it also promotes the friendship.
Exactly. So we understand that this game helps the teachers as well, because there is a problem of numbers in refugee camps, even in other rural areas, be it in Kamoli, be it in western region, northern region. Numbers of students in rural areas, especially in class, are high. Actually, the ratio in refugee camps is 150 students per 1 teacher. So you can imagine in other areas what the ratio could be. So this game can be played up to 5 learners. So what does this solve? That instead of a teacher coming to class and just dictating notes in front of the blackboard, no, you can just give these kids that game, organize them in groups of 5, then allow these kids to play with minimum or no supervision. Because once the kids are playing, we believe they're enjoying and learning the game. So the teacher may just come to supervise them, help them. Maybe you can now play science, you can now play SST, you can now. So it helps them learn, not in class specifically, because when they're in class, they are congested. So this game can be actually played even under a tree, because they have a problem. They don't have enough desks as they in camp. Most of them sit on the ground just to attain education. So they can play from anywhere at any time, and because they don't need internet, they don't need electricity to play that game. So it's encouraging that they can even play on a candle, because this is where they are. This is the kind of life they are living in. So this tool, this educational tool, can help them basically play and learn at anywhere at any time with limited only supervision. In most cases, we find that such kids have been receiving textbooks from publishers, but then we are saying that a textbook, this is a kid who doesn't understand English. He's from Congo, where the basic language is French. So he's now coming to Uganda and he has to go into the Ugandan system of education. And you're giving him a science textbook to read science and understand science, basically. So you find that he's going to face such a challenge. He's alone. He's reading this book. We think he will take decades, actually. He will take years to understand simple English, simple interpretation of questions. So this game can help actually learners learn from each other, peer to peer. You find among the 5 kids, he knows something and I don't know it. But on the game, when he's able to say that maybe you spell the word boy and I can't spell it, but he can't spell it, I can learn it. So there is peer-to-peer learning. Even confidence. These kids lack confidence. They can't express themselves. They are so low, self-esteem is so down. So with that game, they're able to interact, they're able to engage with the learners, they're able to speak up, they're able to feel engaged in the process of learning. Unlike the process of learning whereby it's traditional, I don't think the teacher can be able to interact with all the 300 or 150 students in just a single class. You will find that many kids at the back are left behind. Because the teacher will of course come, talk to them at the front, maybe randomly sample out one student at the back.
Yeah.
So you find that there's always that one student that will be left behind, and we don't want that one student, because we believe that that one student can be something, that can be someone tomorrow. If he's left behind, really look at, because he's there behind that student. There is a big family, so we want to include all these kids. So you find that with the game, these kids can be engaged, they can easily learn together, they can easily,
and they're happier.
and they're happier.
Yeah, I've seen videos of them, and the kids are really happy. I'll
Exactly.
put something somewhere so you guys can see.
Yeah. So you find that even the teachers themselves, they are human. They get fatigued. Yeah, a teacher standing in front of a class from morning to evening, speaking, trying to shout loud at each and every learner. So you find it's tough on them.
Sure.
And most of the Ugandan teachers actually have still adamant to refuse to teach in these communities. Why? The problem is language. You find the pay is the same, but then the language in those, they can't easily teach these kids because they feel they are doing a lot for the same pay. So posting it here in a refugee camp becomes so hard for them to accept it. Like, no, what, so they always give excuses. So even the number of chairs there is so limited. So we believe in, even with that game or with a learning tool, the work of teachers is reduced. At least they are relieved of some work. Another thing is that these kids, remember, they've been home for 2 years. So being home for 2 years, no learning, just playing, and sitting in front of sitting in a class from morning to evening. So what are their attention levels after lunch? We've been used for just playing from morning to evening. What are your attention levels going to be when you return back to class and you have to sit in class from morning to evening? I'm sure all of us here have struggle. Especially classes, let's say from 4 to 6 or from 2 to, you find that your body is already so imagine these kids, these learners, they walk to school, some of them are hungry, they don't have anything to eat in their backpack, so their attention level is really always down. Maybe he left home with just a potato, and it's hard for him to concentrate. So we believe that with the game, even when they can't concentrate in class, they can play. We believe they can play because they play, they love playing. So anything that involves playing, they can do it. So if they can play and learn, we believe it's fantastic. It's working for them, and we believe that the idea is good, and we're working with different schools in these camps, and we have positive feedback from them.
So from the moment you guys started, what have been your biggest achievements? What is that moment that you look back on and you're like, this was everything? You're like, yeah, now we have motivation to actually keep doing what we're doing.
Thank you so much. So basically, I'll start with a local achievement. Our first year of operation in the camp, serious operation, we went to Joeal School, that's Kinakitaka Primary School. Joeal started for his PLE, 2010, around there. So they were the last group of people to get first grade. So they had spent over 10 years without getting a single first grade. All their learners used to be around. In Kinakitaka Primary School, Joeal's year, that was in 2010, that's the year when they last got a first grade. And the reason why Joeal tells me they were able to get a few first grades, Joeal had elder brothers who had been at the same primary school, so they had resources, small past papers, so they were able to look into these things, and being hardworking maybe, and Joeal basically had grown up in the camp, so he was able to speak some good English, because he was born in the camp. So it was easier for him to easily receive things at a first time. But his colleagues who had just joined in the camp, they couldn't catch up. So they failed. Most of them are now in the camp, have kids. Their lives are just stuck. So that's in 2010 when they last had their first grade. But in 2020, we are so happy that these kids played. Actually, they weren't active in school, because after they opened up, they start for their exams. Then the results were out. But just because we are taking these games to the camp, these kids played, the help of teachers at home, we mobilized different people. These kids were able to continue learning. Last year we had over 13 to 12 first grades. They had a number of students in second grade. They had a few in third grade. So you see that at least we can have these kids go join secondary school. And there is a policy, I think, whereby these kids normally get scholarships when they perform. Yes. So if we can have these kids scoring high grades of first grade and they get scholarships for secondary school, we believe that their lives can change, and as well their families. So it was the biggest achievement. It motivated us to actually go to almost all schools in the camp. We are now working with 95% all schools in that camp. We have our games there, our facilitators are there working, helping these kids to learn. Even in the communities, even when they are home, give them the games, they can play. So our biggest achievement was in that year. We are so happy. In 2021 again, we are hoping for the best, and these kids are going to be working. And this year, promise that at least in the camps and the communities we are working with and the schools, they are going to perform very, very well. Because these kids are really learning. At least teachers are giving us positive feedback. Even them themselves, they feel like at least kids do something. Another achievement, I think, ever since we started working as an organization, we are so happy to have been invited by the Queen of England and represented by our team member Joeal to receive a medal for the work we've been doing in the refugee camp in regards to the education of these kids. You know, it's a very good way to be recognized by such a person. So that was around 2017. We are recognized the work we have been doing. We are so happy as a team. Besides that, we've been able to get a chance to work with different international corporations such as Chevrolet, OZ. We've worked with the African Leadership Academy. We've worked with Wisconsin University in terms of research and education. So we work with different people. We had a campaign last year whereby we raised over $12,000 from Asia. So you see that people have believed in us. They're investing in it, and they are finding a way to be able to support these kids down here. So we are so happy. Right now we have upcoming organizations that we are looking up to work with and partnerships such as UNICEF, the National Curriculum Development Forum. They are positive with us and supporting us. So really we've achieved a lot in the shortest period of time we've been working.
That's nice. So I know with all these achievements comes challenges. I'm sure you're not going to tell me there are no challenges, because there must be challenges. What are those challenges that you guys are facing, and you feel like if these were not in the way, maybe the work would be easier, or maybe the project would work better?
Yeah, so basically I think with the challenges, we have the cost of production of these games. Yeah. Locally here, one game can be produced at around 55,000 Ugandan shillings. And on the local market in Uganda, we produce on the local market. And our first prototypes of the games, which can be produced in China, can be produced at around 12,000 shillings. So you see the difference in the cost of production. And as a team, and because we are locally here, we decided to produce native. Why? We want to support the local market, we want to support the business here. Exactly. We feel we cannot produce in China. We shall be instead addable to China. So we have to add on to our country first. So the cost of production here in Uganda is so high, especially in the paper, in the content production, in the transportation. So everything here in Uganda is slightly expensive. Another issue as well that we've been facing is with teachers. We are trying to look for specialized teachers, because you know this is work content, this is education. So we are finding professional teachers that we can possibly work with. So it's very hard, because most of them are term leads, most of them are busy with their school. So it becomes actually expensive to work with them when you're not at school. So engaging them and talking to them, and you know this is not profit, you just help these learners. So if you're just helping these learners and we're not profiting out of this, we believe that we don't have to spend a lot, especially teachers, having these teachers on board is expensive, especially professional teachers. To work with them, it's so hard. So it's expensive as well, and as well a challenge. Another challenge we're facing is in refugee camps is the issue of language. Yeah, most of our facilitators who know how the game mechanics, how the game works, have been facing the challenge of language. So they have to first find a way of interacting with these kids in the local language. They have to first learn the local language, then understand how to teach these kids, interpret, then teach these kids until they adapt. And it takes a few weeks or but most of them normally grasp quickly and they are able to engage with these learners. Yeah, basically I think those are the challenges. Even maybe another challenge may be working with government. In Uganda here, the government's parent education is not receptive. They are still in the traditional extended education. But we are happy that of late they are appreciating the work they are doing, and the NCDC is willing to work with us, and we are in the stages of finalizing our agreements with them. So we believe that with time we can also as well work with the government, because with the government it happens actually the highest number of students, and the UPD, Universal Primary Education, has a lot of students.
Who would definitely benefit.
Exactly. If the government can support us, we feel that these kids in these UPE schools can benefit them. And it takes a lot of a lot of money, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of commitment. If you have to work with all these UPE schools, you need government support. So of late we haven't been having it, but we have hope with the different partnerships that are forming with the government that we can be able to work with these schools. So basically these are the challenges we've been facing here as we've been working, but we believe that with time we're going to be able to solve them and we can be able to work, because there is nothing that comes without a challenge.
That's interesting, that's true. So where do you see yourselves in the next 5 years? Or is 5 too far? Should we say 2 years? You know?
So
basically
now, in the next 5 years, we have a strategic plan. First and foremost, most of the schools have been having their uptown, have transited from actually paper. They are now looking at online. So we are developing an online version of that game to be used by these uptown schools. So the incomes that can be generated from this online game can be actually used to produce other games. For produce other games in other communities. If these schools can use the online version of the game, we can be able to generate a lot of income that can help us actually produce other games in these other communities. So in the next 1 to 2 years, we are looking at having that online version start operating. Basically for these schools which can access internet, where kids can go back at home and actually play when they are home together, because they have smartphones, they have tablets. So we are looking at the online version of the game. We had this year we are releasing another prototype of the game, which is the African Quest, which is actually going to be launched this March. The African Quest is basically going to be used to generate income that can be able as well to support us in producing other games. What is your African Quest about? The African Quest is basically an idea, we believe, in that most people who have been giving us money in Europe have a challenge. They don't know more about Africa. Most of them migrated or left Uganda when they were still young, or most of them resettled in European countries, and that's where they have given birth to their kids. That's where they have started their families, and they are living there. They are permanent residents there, but they haven't lost the passion about Africa and their countries. So the African Quest is basically a game that is going to be teaching them about Africa, the food, the culture, the different physical features, tourist sites, their leaders, the different languages spoken in Africa. So basically we've designed that game because most of the donors appeal to us that can we use the 5 stars before they give us the money. But we told them no, the 5 stars is for education. It can only be used by these primary learners. So we've designed this African Quest to have them know more about Africa. So the market in Europe, all the money that are going to be raising in that game is going to be used again to produce other games that will be able to support these kids down there. As a non-profit, you cannot always depend on grants, donations. So that's our sustainability plan. We have other products that we're working on that are going to be used to generate income to support these learners. So we're as well going to expand to other indigenous African countries that also have the same education system as us. For example, Kenya, Tanzania. So we're looking at expanding it because they have the same challenges. They have communities that have the same challenges. So in the next few years, we're going to be expanding across East Africa. Then within time, we can also expand around Africa, even in the whole world, because these are challenges that are everywhere. So if we can keep expanding, we believe we can keep solving. Yeah. We also hope to reach up to 1 million kids by the end of next year. So that's a reasonable number. If you can have at least all those kids transit to secondary school education, we believe that would be a great milestone. If these kids can keep in school, yeah, we can have a good generation. We can have a generation of these kids are enlightened.
That's really interesting. We can't wait. We can't wait. So you can share your contacts, your social media platforms, your everything, how these people can find you, those who want to support you, how they can reach you, you know.
Yeah, before I do that, I just want to appeal to everyone and everyone who feels they can do something for the lives of learners or young children. It can be in the health sector, it can be in the education sector, it can be anywhere, as long as you're supporting children. Why is it good to support children? Because this is the generation that we are holding. If these children cannot survive, these children cannot attain the best education, meaning these children cannot be anything in life. So if we can keep them in school, keep them healthy, they can become something good tomorrow. These are the teachers, these are the doctors, these are the lawyers. So we can have a golden generation out of these kids. And as a country, as a developing country, we need the resource. And these are the kids. So if these kids keep on dropping out of school, be it these pregnant teen children, if they keep up dropping out of school, our generation is dropping. So if we can keep these kids in school, we can have a very, very, very fantastic generation. And as young leaders and as people that are looking at taking our country somewhere, we have to find a plan. We have to find what is the plan for these kids. Because 20 years in an education system, we have to find a way of keeping these kids in the education system. So I believe these kids in school, all the challenges that Uganda is facing now, they may be able to be solved 20 years from now if these kids remain in school. Because we'll have enough resource, we'll have quite a number of engineers, we shall have a number of doctors. Uganda will not need to hire specialized engineers from China to come and build roads here. These kids can stay in school. We spend billions and billions and billions of shillings as a country to hire foreign experts, medical experts. People fly out of the country just to see medical specialists. So if these kids can be in school, they are the specialists of tomorrow, meaning our domestic market and our domestic sources of revenue will increase. So we believe in education. We believe education can change the world. And these kids, it's only education that they have. Without education, their chances of making it in life are limited. So I want to appeal to everyone, if you can support these kids in any way, at any point, please do. Don't be hesitating. If you don't support them, they're going to become a problem. These are kids who are going to find rioting. These are kids who are going to be looting. These are kids who are going to be disturbing, destabilizing. Yeah, these are the criminals who are going to have. So let's find out of. For our contacts, we are on all social media handles. You can just look at My Homestars. Just type in My Homestars. We'll be able to look at our work, the things we've been doing, the different schools we're working with. We are on Twitter, we are on YouTube, we are on Instagram, Facebook. So basically those are our contacts. You can just write to us in our email, that's myhomestars@gmail.com. In case you want us to look to your community, you can as well come to us, because this we are looking at having money. You can find a way which you come to us. We shall come and support your communities where you come from. And basically, we believe this can work, and with this idea, with this innovation, we can have change.
So I'm not going to add anything useful, honestly. He has said it all. If you want to reach out, do not get tired of blessing people. Kindness is really cheap. It doesn't matter how much you bring to the table. It doesn't matter what you're bringing to the table. Just go right ahead. Do not miss an opportunity of being kind. Yeah. So thank you so much for doing this. Yeah. You guys, we shall see you in our next video. Please reach out, like this video, share the video, let the world know that people out there are doing things that are actually changing the world. Yeah, don't miss the chance to be a part of this beautiful initiative. Yeah, so we shall see you in our next video. Stay safe and take care of yourselves.